All that glitters is gold. Only shooting stars break the mold. We may have heard those lyrics before, but I think it's fitting enough for this monologue. There's no denying the cultural impact and phenomena that the Shrek franchise has become, especially in the history of animation, movies, and pop culture. The franchise has served as a financial success, becoming the 18th highest grossing film franchise of all time and the second highest grossing animated franchise, which leads to where we are right now in terms of future potential for the franchise in recent years. So, here in this video, which will serve as part 1 of this deep dive 2-part miniseries on the Shrek franchise, we will be going down memory lane with the Shrek quadrilogy, how these movies have created an impact on us, for better or worse, and discuss the current state of the franchise. Hello, we're finally going to talk about nice stuff after making a video about not so nice stuff. But hey, my dear viewers, you and I deserve some nice indulgence by me making another deep dive miniseries where I gush and ramble about the Shrek franchise. I think I need to do a bit of a formal introduction of myself for those who either are new to my channel and content or have been watching my videos for quite some time now. But anyway, hi, I'm Hana-chan or Hannah, whatever you want to call me. Preferably you call me Hannah though. And well, I suck at being on YouTube sometimes. I mostly rely on my content by making fan art compared to making videos, though if you enjoy videos like this, I am more than welcome to continue in making this kind of content. Expect me to be experimental for a bit regarding whatever content that I'll be making though. But anyway, on to everything regarding Shrek and this deep dive miniseries. In the past, I've done a 2-part deep dive miniseries on the Ice Age and Rio franchises, and where I covered their histories, development and production, nostalgia and memories regarding them, and as well the online communities, fandoms, and culture regarding these franchises. I wanted to get into the latter and talk about how they shaped me as a person and creator, but I learned a lot when it comes to these franchises' production and development. So that's what I'll be doing for this Shrek franchise deep dive miniseries. But there is a twist. Here in this video, I will of course talk about the history, development, production, nostalgia, and memories regarding the Shrek quadrilogy, though online communities, fandoms, and such won't be covered here unfortunately. The impact and phenomena of how the internet sees Shrek is there, and I don't think I have to explain it. But for me personally, I was never present in the online world during any of the Shrek films releases in their respective times, basically back in the day. Where I've been most present in online communities regarding Shrek though would have to go to the Puss in Boots spin-off duology, especially when it came to The Last Wish. In fact, I wanted to do a video on Puss first, but I feel like it would be better for part 1 to cover everything where it all began with Shrek. So I'll have this video serve as a prerequisite for my Puss video, if you will, in which the latter will serve as part 2 of this mini-series. I also want to add that I'm only going over the movies and won't be covering other forms of media within the franchise, such as short films and television specials. And lastly, by the end of the video, I will go over the current state of the franchise and its future, and my thoughts and predictions. It's completely understandable that everyone has done video essays about Shrek at this point, so if you're someone who only wants to hear my thoughts and opinions regarding Shrek's future and nothing else, I completely understand, though I do hope you stick around for the entire video because I like having you here and want to know more about your thoughts on everything that we'll be covering in this video. And yeah, I think that's about it. So let's get into everything in this video. Be sure to take a seat, relax, and grab a snack and drink. We're going to talk about the Shrek quadrilogy. In order to understand how the Ogre came to be, we have to go all the way back and talk about the book that served as the basis of the first film that would eventually become a film franchise. Shrek, with an exclamation mark, is a fantasy comedy picture book that was published in 1990 and written and illustrated by American book writer and cartoonist William Steig. It is about a repugnant green monster who leaves home to see the world and ends up marrying an ugly princess. The book was generally well received upon publication, with critics praising the illustrations, originality, and writing, and have also described Shrek as an anti-hero and noted the book's themes of satisfaction and self-esteem. The name Shrek is a romanization of the Yiddish word Shrek or Schreckleck, related to the German Shrek and meaning fear or fright. Looking into this book, obviously there are differences between the movie and the book, including the addition of characters and changing the plot and morals, but other than that, the experience in looking into the book was worth it, especially for making this video. Steig even liked the movie, and it dramatically increased sales of his book, saying, "It's vulgar, it's disgusting, and I love it." Unfortunately, I feel like I'm going to cut this segment short since I don't have anything else to say other than my thoughts on the book and for me to acknowledge the differences between the movie and book. So I'm going to leave links to a few videos regarding the book and origins of Shrek in the description below, especially a video done by John Solo. I definitely recommend it. With all of that being said, let's finally head on to the movie where it all began and how it created an impact in pop culture. Here we are, the movie where it all began. Regarding the development of the film, at the time DreamWorks Pictures was founded in 1994, producer John H. Williams got hold of the book from his children, and when he brought it to DreamWorks, it caught CEO Jeffrey Katzenberg's attention, and the studio decided to make it into a film. Recounting the inspiration of making the film, Williams said, "Every development deal starts with a pitch, and my pitch came from my then kindergartner, in collaboration with his preschool brother. Upon our second reading of Shrek, the kindergartner started quoting large segments of the book, pretending he could read them. Even as an adult, I thought Shrek was outrageous, irreverent, iconoclastic, gross, and just a lot of fun. He was a great movie character in search of a movie." After buying the rights to the film, Katzenberg quickly put it in active development in November 1995. Steven Spielberg had thought about making a traditionally animated film adaptation of the book before, where Bill Murray and Steve Martin would voice Shrek and Donkey respectively. In the beginning of production, co-director Andrew Adamson refused to be intimidated by Katzenberg and had an argument with him about how much the film should appeal to adults. Katzenberg wanted both audiences, but he deemed some of Adamson's ideas, such as adding sexual jokes and Guns N' Roses music to the soundtrack, to be too outrageous. Adamson and Kelly Asbury joined in 1997 to co-direct the film. However, Asbury left a year later for work on the 2002 film Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron, and was replaced with story artist Vicky Jensen, although Asbury would later co-direct Shrek 2. Both Adamson and Jensen decided to work on the film in half, so the crew could at least know whom to go with specific details and questions about the film sequences. We both ended up doing a lot of everything. We're both kinda control freaks, and we both wanted to do everything. And on May 18, 2001, Shrek was released, widely praised by critics for its animation, voice performances, soundtrack, writing, and humor, which they know to cater to both adults and children, and grossed over $492 million worldwide, becoming the fourth highest grossing film of 2001. It was even nominated for the Academy Award for Best Adapted Screenplay and won the first ever Academy Award for Best Animated Feature. The success of the film even helped establish DreamWorks Animation as a competitor to Disney and Pixar in the world of feature film animation. Prior to Shrek, DreamWorks Animation has released other films such as Ants, The Prince of Egypt, The Road to El Dorado, Chicken Run, and Joseph, King of Dreams. And thus, a franchise and legend was born. The movie is about an embittered ogre named Shrek who finds that his home in the swamp overrun by fairy tale creatures banished by the obsessive ruler Lord Farquaad with the help of a donkey named, well, Donkey. Shrek makes a pact with Farquaad to rescue Princess Fiona in exchange for regaining control of his swamp. As a staple of childhood, Shrek was one of the movies that I grew up with, watching over and over again, and it has every right to be considered a classic. And I still share that sentiment to this very day as I've gotten older. First off, the amount of adult jokes and swearing that went over my head as a kid will never not be funny to me. Like, how was I able to get away with watching a movie that had swear words like ass and crap is beyond me, us especially. And secondly, as much as we praise the movie for its comedy a lot and even meaning it every now and then, the theme of self-acceptance is what captures the heart of this film. Sure, I think it's simple and to the point, but I also believe it's important. And to close off this segment, I'll just share this clip right here.
Look, I'm not the one with the problem, okay? It's the world that seems to have a problem with me. People take one look at me and go, "Ah, help, run! A big, stupid, ugly ogre." They judge me before they even know me. That's why I'm better off alone.
You know what? When we met, I didn't think you was just a big, stupid, ugly ogre.
Yeah, I know.
It's now time to talk about the peak Shrek film. Who am I kidding? I'd argue that the first two Shrek films are the peak films until the franchise fatigued with the latter two, in terms of quality anyway. I'll get to them later, but until then, be sure to hold on to those happy thoughts as this segment progresses. Production and development for the sequel began in 2001, even before the first film was released, and Ted Elliott and Terry Rossio, the screenwriters of the first Shrek film, insisted that the sequel to be a traditional fairy tale, but after disagreements with the producers, they left the project and were replaced by director Andrew Adamson. His writing of Shrek 2 was inspired by the 1967 comedy drama film Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, and was completed with the help of the film's co-writers Joe Stillman, who's one of the other writers from the first film, J. David Stem and David N. Weiss, and co-directors Kelly Asbury and Conrad Vernon. Released on May 19, 2004, and like its predecessor, Shrek 2 received critical acclaim and grossed $935 million worldwide, becoming the highest grossing film of 2004 and the fifth highest grossing film overall at the time of its release. It's also DreamWorks Animation's highest grossing film to date. The film is also dedicated to the memory of Shrek creator William Steig, who died on October 3, 2003, 8 months before the film was released. He died on my third birthday, and quite frankly, I don't know whether to consider that as a blessing or a curse. In fairness though, this movie was released 10 days after my sister was born. Anyway, Shrek 2 takes place following the events of the first film, with Shrek and Donkey meeting Fiona's parents in Far, Far Away as the fairy godmother who wants Fiona to marry her son Prince Charming plots to destroy Shrek and Fiona's marriage. There, Shrek and Donkey team up with a sword-wielding cat named Puss in Boots to foil her plans. Like I said before, this is the Shrek movie ever, not to mention arguably one of the best sequels ever. So much so, Shrek 2 and The Last Wish are now fighting on who gets the #1 spot whenever I rank the Shrek filmography. But anyway, yeah, we got the iconic opening song that is Accidentally in Love, the fairy godmother, the debut of our favorite fearless hero that is Puss in Boots, Mongo, covers of Holding Out for a Hero, and Livin' La Vida Loca. It's one of those movies that has the gift that truly keeps on giving. Back in the day, a Shrek sequel was something that I never put a lot of thought into as a kid, but I believe it was bound to happen regardless. Also, holy shit, I still can't believe now that Shrek 2 is 2 decades old. Please let that sink in. Following the success of Shrek 2, the third and fourth Shrek films, along with plans for a final fifth film, were announced in May 2004 by Jeffrey Katzenberg, where he states that Shrek 3 and 4 are going to reveal other unanswered questions, and finally, in the last chapter, we will understand how Shrek came to be in that swamp, where we meet him in the first movie. DreamWorks hired screenwriters Jeffrey Price and Peter S. Seaman to write the screenplay of the film, and John Zack came on board as a consultant. Unlike the first two films, the film was not directed by Andrew Adamson due to his occupation with Narnia.
For Narnia! Exploration!
Adamson was still involved as an executive producer and was giving advice approximately every 4 months on the state of the film. Shrek the Third was instead directed by Chris Miller, a story artist on the first film and a head of story on the second, and co-directed by Ramen Hui, a supervising animator on the first two films. The film was developed under the working title of Shrek 3, though by March 2006, the title of the film was changed to Shrek the Third. According to Miller, regarding the title change, he states that they didn't want to just sort of title it like it was just a sequel. We wanted something to make it stand on its own, give it its own personality, and really try to treat it as a chapter in Shrek's life. Hui also remarked, "It's about Shrek becoming the new king of Far, Far Away." The title sounds kind of royal as well. Released on May 18, 2007, it was met with mixed reviews but was a commercial success nonetheless, grossing $813 million worldwide on a budget of $160 million, becoming the fourth highest grossing film of 2007. In this film, Prince Charming is plotting to overthrow Shrek and Fiona, who have inherited the throne following King Harold's death. Shrek has no interest in ruling the kingdom and attempts to convince Fiona's underachieving 16-year-old cousin Artie to reign instead. Also, Fiona is pregnant and we get ogre babies. Now, unlike the first two films, I never got around watching this one when it was first released back in the day. I do have a few memories where I would catch a glimpse of a few scenes from the movie on TV. There was this one time where I was attending a party at my cousin's house and the movie was playing on his TV, and the scenes that I recall from that day were Shrek's nightmare, Charming going, "Mommy," and the credits with Donkey and Puss dancing and singing to the Ogre triplets. Another time was when the movie was playing on TBS one day and the scene of King Harold's funeral and the frogs singing caught my attention. All that Kid Me could think of at that point in time was, wait, Harold died? Holy shit. Leading to recent years, I've had a few moments where I would look into this movie for a bit, and while I can admit that it wasn't a groundbreaking film by any means, and it does have problems, I wouldn't go out of my way to say it was downright terrible either. Weak would probably be my kind of term to describe this film, and to say that this film would become some kind of factor of the quality decline of Shrek would be an understatement. I'm not going to spend too much time in this segment ripping this movie to shreds. I think we have enough of that already. In fact, Jax Films and Shayfrillas have done a better job than I ever could in explaining the problems and issues with Shrek the Third. I will say though, I did get around watching the entirety of this film during my spring break, and yeah, I think I still stand by my opinion. Though, to change the tone for a bit, I will share a few positives that I have with this movie. I'm pretty sure this sentiment has been echoed enough, but I still want to share my thoughts on it anyway for when I bring up the scene where Shrek and Artie have a heart-to-heart moment, because this scene, in my opinion, is probably where the film had some genuine heart and soul to it.
I know what it's like to not feel ready for something. Even ogres get scared. You know, once in a while.
I know you want me to be king, but I can't. I'm not cut out for it, and I never will be, alright? Even my own dad knew I wasn't worth the trouble. He dumped me at that school the first chance he got, and I never heard from him again.
My dad wasn't really the fatherly type either.
Well, I doubt he was worse than mine.
Oh yeah? My father was an ogre. He tried to eat me. Oh, I guess I should have seen it coming. He used to give me a bath in barbecue sauce and put me to bed with an apple in my mouth.
Okay, I guess that's pretty bad.
You know, it may be hard to believe, what with my obvious charm and good looks, but people used to think I was a monster. And for a long time, I believed them. But after a while, you learn to ignore the names that people call you, and you just trust who you are.
You know, you're okay, Shrek. You just need to do a little less yelling and use a little more soap.
Thanks, Auntie.
The soap's because you stink. Really bad.
There have even been a few scenes that I did enjoy and even chuckled at a few times. The Barracuda scene was dope. Gingy's flashbacks were insane. What's the matter, Gingy? Lives flashing before your eyes? Okay, I'm sorry. I know we're not in the Puss video yet, but leave me alone. I had to do it. There's also this.
Alright, people, let's do this thing. Go Team Dynamite!
I thought we agreed we go by the name of Team Super Cool. As I recall, it was Team Awesome.
I voted for Team Alpha Wolf Squadron.
Alright. From henceforth, we gotta be known as Team Alpha Super Awesome Cool Dynamite Wolf Squadron.
Team friendship sounds better, but I digress. But anyway, yeah, I think there's no way that this is the kind of film that would have any rewatchability for me, and I'll leave it at that for today. In October 2006, DreamWorks revealed that a fourth installment for Shrek would be released in 2010, and the following year, Jeffrey Katzenberg announced a title for the fourth film, Shrek Goes Forth, explaining that Shrek goes out into the world forth. In May 2009, however, DreamWorks Animation retitled the film to Shrek Forever After, indicating that it would be the last in the Shrek series. In November 2009, Bill Damashk, head of creative production at DreamWorks Animation, confirmed by stating, "All that was loved about Shrek in the first film is brought to the final film. Tim Sullivan was hired to write the script in March 2005, but was later replaced by Darren Lemke and Josh Klausner. When asked about writing the script, Klausner says, "When I first came onto the project, it wasn't supposed to be the final chapter. There were originally going to be 5 Shrek movies. Then, about a year into the development, Jeffrey Katzenberg decided that the story that we'd come up with was the right way for Shrek's journey to end, which was incredibly flattering." In May 2007, shortly before the release of the third film, it was announced Mike Mitchell would be on board to direct the new installment. Released on May 21, 2010, the film received mixed reviews from critics and grossed a worldwide total of $756 million, becoming the 5th highest grossing film of 2010. The film follows Shrek, who struggles with the responsibilities and stress of being a domesticated family man, yearning for the days he was once feared and lived in solitude. He is tricked by Rumpelstiltskin into signing a contract that leads to disastrous consequences. There, Shrek suddenly finds himself in a twisted alternate reality where ogres are hunted, Rumpelstiltskin is king, Puss is obese, and Shrek has never met Donkey or Fiona. Shrek discovers he unknowingly traded the day he was born and will not exist after the day is over. Shrek also becomes entangled with an underground resistance of ogres led by Fiona. Now, when I first heard about this movie back in 2010, I had no idea that Shrek was still going on around that time, since I pretty much lost interest with him ever since the third film, and I still have a deep attachment with the first 2 films. But still, I never had any interest with him like I used to. So just like the third film, I didn't get around watching this one either. I also do have a few memories where I would catch a glimpse of a few scenes on TV with this one. I vividly remember this one time where I was watching the scene where the ogres were forced to dance by the Pied Piper at another cousin's house. Another time was back in February 2014 where I caught my sister watching the movie on the FX channel, and there was at one point where the Do the Roar scene stood out to me the most, for both good and bad reasons that I'll get into in a few minutes. And another time back in either late 2020 or late 2021 where I caught my dad watching the movie on Amazon Prime, and around that time, all that I could remember is us having a good chuckle at the scene where the witches were treating Donkey as their radio. Now, I must admit that in recent years, I've seen a few clips of this film on YouTube prior to finally getting around watching the whole thing during my spring break. In fact, after watching Shrek the Third, I went on to watch Forever After on the same night. I consider watching Forever After as my palate cleanser after watching the third film. And of all the scenes that I enjoyed the most, it would have to be the ending. As much as I grew distant from Shrek at that point in time, I can't deny on how far he's come, and it feels such an honor and privilege to grow up with him. Even if Forever After did have some problems, this one feels forgivable and redeemable for me in regards to the problems that I had with the third film. Like I mentioned earlier, the latter 2 Shrek films are where I believe that this was the quality decline of Shrek, where one remains notorious, the other one remains victorious. But at the end of the day, there wasn't any wow factor when it comes to the last 2 Shrek films. One thing's for sure though, unlike the third film, Forever After felt like an emotional roller coaster, and I definitely had a good time with it. I loved the callbacks and dark tones, Rumpelstiltskin was a fun villain, the addition of more ogres. Comparing the animation between this film and the first film is insane. Again, look how far we've come. And again, the ending was just beautiful. Okay, but what about that Do the Roar scene? On one hand, it did give me a good chuckle, but it's mostly due to the memes that came from that scene. And on the other hand, there's absolutely no justification on the way Shrek lashed out about it. In fairness though, that cake does freak me out, but instead of taking out my anger by smashing it with my fists, I think I'll just yeet it to the sun. In all seriousness though, it is amazing to see how far Shrek and his friends have come after all of these years, and for this to be the last Shrek film, no matter the good and bad that this franchise has been through, it's best to wrap everything up in a pretty little bow and put the Shrek movies to rest. Or so we thought. Okay, the moment you've all been waiting for. Whether you stuck around through the entire video or you just skipped right ahead to this segment, regardless, I do want to thank you for taking the time and watching these kinds of videos because I put in a lot of time, work, and effort to them. Now, let's revisit what Jeffrey Katzenberg said back in May 2004, but with a few more things to add. Katzenberg revealed that the Shrek story had been outlined into 5 films almost from the beginning. Before the first one was finished, we talked about what the whole story of Shrek is, and each of the chapters answers questions about the first movie and gives us an insight. Shrek 3 and 4 are going to reveal other unanswered questions, and finally, in the last chapter, we will understand how Shrek came to be in that swamp when we meet him in the first movie. There is a reason he came to be there, but there is another chapter to the story before that. After the release of Shrek the Third in 2007, Katzenberg announced that the fifth film would be released in 2013. And did Shrek 5 happen in 2013? No. In February 2014, in an interview with Fox Business, Katzenberg hinted that a fifth film could still be made, stating, "We like to let them have a little bit of time to rest. But I think you can be confident that we'll have another chapter in the Shrek series. We're not finished, and more importantly, neither is he." After NBC Universal purchased DreamWorks Animation for $3.8 billion in June 2016, NBC Universal CEO Steve Burke discussed plans to continue the franchise, as well as other DreamWorks films. In July 2016, The Hollywood Reporter cited sources saying that the fifth film was planned for a 2019 release. In September 2016, Eddie Murphy, Donkey's voice actor, confirmed that the film was expected to be released in 2019 or 2020 and that the script had been completed. And did we get Shrek 5 in either 2019 or 2020? Still no. We didn't even get Puss in Boots 2 in 2018, but that's for part 2 of this deep dive miniseries. Getting back to Shrek 5, the film was written by writer and director Michael McCullers based on his own idea. When asked about the script in March 2017, McCullers said it featured a pretty big reinvention for the film series. On November 6, 2018, it was reported by Variety that founder and CEO of Illumination, Chris Meledandri, remember him, had been tasked to be the executive producer of both Shrek 5 and Puss in Boots 2, with the cast of the previous films potentially returning. Flash forward to April of 2023, Meledandri revealed that a fifth film was still in talks, with the original cast expected to return. And on top of a fifth installment in the works, it was revealed that a spin-off film revolving around Donkey was in early talks as well. Now, before I get into my thoughts and predictions, I want to share my initial thoughts and impressions regarding a fifth installment for Shrek. I'm not going to have a lot to say regarding the Donkey spin-off because it's something that I have less interest in at this very moment. At first, a fifth installment for Shrek is something that I didn't mind, and if it were to ever happen, I just hope that it would be done right and perfectly compared to the third and fourth installments. But at the same time, even when I didn't get around watching the third and fourth films back then, it was difficult for me to be excited over a fifth installment because I personally found Forever After, despite the mixed reception it received and some of the problems that I had with it, as a great conclusion to Shrek's arc, if you will. I also felt that people want a Shrek 5 for the sake of extending their worship and ironic liking to Shrek within memes and internet phenomena, and just to be clear, I've had my fair share of laughing and enjoying Shrek memes that I will encounter online, but it's just like, are you going to see Shrek 5 for the sake of meme and internet culture, or see the movie for the sake of heart and genuinity? I won't be mad at you if you want to do both. Heck, I think I would do the same thing, though if I want to be real here, I want to see Shrek 5 for the sake of the nostalgic attachment that I have for these movies. Even if it happens to be a movie that ends up being like shit, which I hope it doesn't, I still want to look into the heart, soul, and genuinity that it at least has, rather than being treated like a joke. Which leads to my changed thoughts and opinions on Shrek 5. This all changed ever since seeing that ending in The Last Wish. You know which one I'm talking about.
Off to find new adventures and to see some old friends.
All that I hope now is if Shrek 5 can receive the same kind of acclaim that The Last Wish has received, especially since the latter did serve as a soft reboot / revival to this franchise, if you will. And you bet that I'm going to give it a watch if it ever does come around. Now we get onto the things that I would like to see in Shrek 5, and once again, everything that I'll be bringing up here might not sound substantial by any means, but I think it'd be nice and also fun to share some ideas that I can bring onto the table. And hey, if you guys want to share something that you'd like to see in Shrek 5, feel welcome to add on in the comments. Anyway, let's start. First and foremost, I hope to see the Ogre triplets all grown up. Secondly, I'd like to see Kitty Softpaws and Purrito make an appearance and even become part of the main cast. In fact, speaking of Kitty, can we also get a wedding scene between her and Puss at some point and even make them kiss on screen? I'll attend the wedding, maybe even give Death a cameo. And finally, I also want Shrek 5 to have stylized animation like The Last Wish did. And some of you are probably wondering if I have any ideas for a premise for Shrek 5. Honestly, I don't have too much to add. Again, I want to encourage you guys in the comments to share what kind of story/premise you want to see. And I think that's about it for now for what I want to see. I won't be too mad if things end up being different compared to what I want. Now let's get into my thoughts and predictions regarding Shrek 5's reception and if its success and performance will do well compared to its predecessors. One thing's for sure, and knowing how its predecessors did well in the box office, I could definitely see Shrek 5 being a commercial and box office success. From a critical perspective, and like I said before, I hope it can receive the same kind of acclaim that The Last Wish received if the quality is done right. I even hope it can maybe be better than the third and fourth installments. Now, what about its release date? Well, that's a very interesting question because as I was in the first few stages of recording segments and editing this video on July 9, 2024, a release date for Shrek 5 has been scheduled for July 1, 2026, with Walt Dorn, who previously served as a story artist on Shrek 2 and Shrek the Third, as well as the head of story and voice of Rumpelstiltskin and Shrek Forever After, attached to direct, with Minions: The Rise of Gru co-director Brad Abelson co-directing and Gina Shea co-producing with Mela Dondry. I was even confident that Shrek 5 would be released sometime later throughout this decade, and because I've been slacking with this video for a few months at this point, especially with the announcements ranging from Eddie Murphy hinting Shrek 5 to be released sometime around next year during an interview he did with Collider in late June 2024 to where we are now that we have a release date for it, I think now is the right time to get this video out. All in all though, what I can hope for at the moment is that the animators, artists, writers, staff, and whatnot at DreamWorks are taking their time in working on this film. And that's all that I have to say for now in this segment. So Shrek, I can't wait to see you in 2026! The phenomenon of Shrek was, is, and will always be fascinating to me. Whether it's the memes and ironic liking or acknowledging the theme and heart of self-acceptance and self-concept, Shrek is truly unstoppable. And I'm not even being hyperbolic. While my love for these films, at least with the first two, has been overall stemmed on nostalgia, there is also a newfound appreciation that I have as I got older for this franchise and how much it has impacted so many others. Even when the franchise had its darkest days, I'm just beyond grateful for it in being part of my life. In the world of fairy tales, there is an attachment to have when it comes to the heart, charm, wit, humor, emotion, art, growth among the characters and world building that this franchise has, and I look forward to seeing more of that when Shrek finally makes his comeback in 2026. It's the beginning of a new era. All thanks to you though, Gato. You're up next. Well, I want to thank you all so much for making it all the way to the end of this video. I know I've been slacking with it for a while now, but I do hope it was worth it in the end. Whatever happens to this video, happens. If you like this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up. You're welcome to hit that like button. If you aren't subscribed to the channel, feel welcome to subscribe if you wish. Don't forget to check out my social media platforms down in the description below. Feel welcome to share this video, and finally, comment down below what is your favorite Shrek movie and who's your favorite character. That's the end of the video. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video where I talk about the Puss in Boots spin-off duology. I can't wait to make that video, honestly. With that being said, I will see you soon.